Good evening, everyone. This is Pastor Anthony here with your Daily Excellence. Just coming on tonight. We have a guest speaker coming on tonight. Most of you guys on this channel know who he is. It's Brother Jim from the Earth Changes channel. He's going to join me tonight, and we are going to talk about preparation and preparedness for these events that we're facing. But before we get into all that, and I bring Brother Jim on, if you guys could do me a huge favor right now and give this video a thumbs up, share the video, and of course, subscribe to the channel as well. Doing all three of those things helps get this channel up and going, helps us expand our message, and helps other people find this channel who may not know that we exist yet. And so doing those things is awesome. Giving a thumbs up all helps any channel because it gets the algorithms going in our favor. And so very important. As we are getting more people into the chat room tonight, a couple of things. Make sure you go into our descriptions below. Check out all of our platforms and social medias that we have. We do all these things to protect the channel. Should Lord forbid something happen to our YouTube channel, we have a backup channel at Pastor Anthony's channel. We have Rumble, Brighteon, Patreon. We have a lot of other areas that you can still find us. Also, for breaking news that's taking place, we post on Parler, which is back up and running again, and we post on Telegram as well. And so you can do all those things, keep up with us, and just kind of join the family here with everything we've got going. And also you can support this channel through our Patreon and our PayPal as well. So with all that being said, Brother Tim, I'm glad that you're here with us tonight. Before we get started, sir, we have a lot of new subscribers that are on the channel that may not know who you are. So if you want to just give a brief description of what you do on your channel and how we can find you, because you have two channels now.
Yes, thank you, Anthony. I started out about 17 years ago with the stock market as a day trader, and it took me down a rabbit hole to become an alternative researcher, independent alternative researcher, and I'm up to 230 subjects, and I'm in the top 50 in the world. And the purpose of the channel, both channels, Deep Truth, Deep Impact, and Earth Changes channel, is to help people prepare and to help them prepare spiritually. And that's what the channel is all about. It also deals with spiritual guidance, but most of all, to help people prepare for these events. And now they are happening. In all of the years I have researched, I have never, Anthony, never in all my years have seen it like this.
Yes.
Never.
Yes. So you have two channels, Earth Changes channel, and then you got a new one as a backup, Deep Truth, Deep Impact. And so if you would like to follow Brother Jim, those are both channels. Now, one channel, if you want to explain that, you have a content that goes to one channel and you have content that goes to the other channel. You want to explain that just for a quick second?
Yes, I keep Earth Changes channel because it's the primary channel that deals with the magnetic reversal process that I've been studying for since 2011, the return of the planetary system, earthquakes, enormous cracks, sinkholes, the weather, anything that deals with earth changes is there. And all of the videos have been validated, and if I receive information from reliable sources such as intelligence, I got connections with geologists, astronomers, and scientists, military, I have to have confirmation before I release that information. But as far as Deep Truth, Deep Impact, it deals with the coming asteroids, debris fields like the Trojans that was interrupted 4 months ago, the Apollos, and the planetary system, of course. It's pushing debris this direction. But it basically covers the potential impacts that are coming, and we will definitely be hit this year. And that's the difference between the two channels.
All right. Well, we thank you, Brother Jim, for coming on today and for talking to us about those channels. And so, talking about, planetary systems and rocks coming, we have a lot of stuff we're getting ready to face. And so one of the things that I felt to do was to have you come on and talk about how we can prepare, ourselves, our families, because we have a lot of things that we're about to face, and we've got weather chaos that we're going to be experiencing this spring, relatively soon, actually, if we're not already by the time we air this. We have, of course, we're still dealing with COVID-19 and the after effects of all of that. We have earthquakes, we've got volcanoes. I think right now we're kind of anticipating a big earthquake to take place because we've got CMEs that are coming in from the sun that are entering our atmosphere as we speak right now. And so there's a lot of things that are taking place. And, we were not prepared, Brother Jim, when this pandemic hit. We were not prepared in the southern states, especially like Texas, when we had this vortex come through. A lot of us were kind of caught, in a sense, with our pants down in the area of preparedness. And so when we look at these, I kind of, like I was telling you earlier before we got on here, I look at these as kind of test and kind of an idea of what we're about to go through in the future. And so we're going to look at this, Brother Jim, in 3 different areas. We're going to look at this from being in the city, living out in the country, and then also, what was that third area, Brother Jim? You have to help me out here as we were planning this. Being in the city, country areas, and
totally off the grid.
Off grid, that's right. Yep. And so we're going to look at all 3 areas and look what we can do, depending on who you are, because we know that both of our subscribers on your channel and my channel all fit in within these 3 areas we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk about what we can do in the short term and in the long term. And so, Brother Tim, I'm going to let you take it away on this one. However you want to start off on this, maybe kind of giving the example of what we should have learned in 2020 and what we should have learned in Texas and the southern states that were affected by this but by this polar vortex, and we'll just build from there.
Yes, Anthony. Both channels, your channel and Earth Changers channel, told the people about the vortex at least 2 weeks in advance and to prepare. Mm-hmm. But I believe most of them did not, unfortunately.
Right.
And now they lost electricity. They lost their water because there's no electricity to pump water. And there was food shortages. And, of course, the temperatures was extremely low. People started getting sick. And it turned out to be a major disaster. But we warned them. And the way I look at it is dare to prepare. Okay? Mm-hmm. Dare to prepare. And surprisingly, some of the people on the channel, they did listen, but most of them did not. They took us for granted on that. As far as what happened to Texas and throughout the United States dealing with the cold temperatures, I'm going to be more specific, and I know you will too, when we see an event that is approaching dealing with the weather. It could be a vortex, hurricanes, tornadoes. We will try our best to give people a warning at least 2 days in advance. To stock up on food is very important. People ask me, what should I invest, gold or silver? I said, no, food.
Yeah.
Okay, food. And also water in case the electricity goes out. If the electricity goes out, you're not going to have any electricity, but the city, county, and state won't have electricity either, depending on the magnitude of the emergency that's taking place. They won't be able to pump water. And so what I recommend is you can go to Tractor Supply, you can go to any place that sells farm materials and purchase. You don't have to get a 1,500-gallon poly tank, okay? If you put that in your backyard, people are going to complain and it's going to violate city ordinance. But a small 200-gallon tank, that's perfectly fine. And then have the water in there for backup. Okay, water's important. Water is extremely important. That was the number one issue that I received from people that was in Texas. The water problem got so bad that after they emptied out their water from their plastic containers, they went into the garbage and started getting the containers out. And then you can't, like with the snow being contaminated, I told people, do not take that snow and boil it to get water. It's contaminated. So water, I would say, Anthony, water would be number one. Also food. You can buy LED lights that's rechargeable, or you can just simply buy a $2 candle.
Yeah.
Okay? And there's several places you can get those candles. So that way at night you will have lights in your home. If it's extreme cold weather, I suggested in a previous video that you can get a 5-gallon propane tank and purchase a small barbecue heater with 2 eyes, put it in a kitchen or somewhere in the house. Don't cook on it. I mean, you don't set your house on fire. I mean, you can cook on it, but be very cautious and use your common sense, and that way you can keep your house warm. You can have non-perishable food. Soup is very good for you. Mm-hmm. Now, it's very easy. It's just open up a can, and it gives you enough vitamins you can add chicken to it or any type of protein. And then, so cover, as far as electricity, let's say we had an EMP, that's a different category than the weather. I would advise people in the city to pay attention to the CMEs. If we get hit with a CME that's extremely high, and both channels will alert subscribers for that. You have about 8 to 18, sometimes 24 hours before it impacts the earth. You can simply disconnect your ground off your battery. I prefer disconnecting positive and negative and cover up the positive ground so it doesn't arc out anyway, and your car is protected. As far as your house, your meters have a lock on it. In a state of emergency, cut that lock off, okay? Mm-hmm. Just cut it off and pull that meter out of the box. If you pull that meter out of the box, your house is going to be okay. If you do not and get hit with a CME, you're going to lose your refrigerator, microwaves. Anything electrical in your house will be shocked by the surge that will come through from a CME. So in the city, that's what I would recommend. Okay, you can also buy a generator that will hook in, but you're going to have to hook it in to your meter box. Unless you want to run extension cords into your house, that's what most people do to run your microwave. You keep your refrigerator and freezer going. You don't want to lose any of your food in your freezers, especially. So cover it with water. And if you can't afford a 200-gallon poly tank, okay, you can buy the 5 gallons and 10 gallons of water and buy at least 25 gallons of water. Mm-hmm. That will get you by for approximately maybe 2 days. It depends on the size of your family. Use your common sense. So water, food, lights, a generator, all of that is extremely important for the city, okay, for the city. We are anticipating large amounts of hurricanes this year, unfortunately, because the weather is changing. The jet streams are totally out of whack. We know that is coming. Anthony, you're doing a great job on your channel dealing with the weather.
Oh, thank you.
We have, yes, brother. And we have tornadoes coming. They are anticipating a record number of F4s and F5s. And, if you look at the tornado alley, about 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, it all comes up from Texas into Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska. It has moved into Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, some parts of Florida. South Carolina, North Carolina, and Tennessee. So now the tornadoes have moved slightly over towards the southern part or the southeast part of the United States. And they're going to be deadly. Out of all the weather conditions, the tornadoes, you don't get a warning sometimes.
No.
And they're the most dramatic. I mean, you're going to get a warning on the hurricanes at least 5 days in advance. Our government does an excellent job. A number of different weather channels, cover it at least 5 days in advance. The computer systems, they can track it. They give you 5 different directions. And we should be paying attention to that.
Yeah.
Very much. Now, people in the rural areas, okay, they don't have to deal with the big city. So if something happens, they can go to their grocery store and buy food, and it's not going to be people overrunning you. The people in the rural areas, just simply go to your grocery store. It's coming. Get your food, get your water. As far as electricity, it may not be affected because it's in a rural area. Most of the electricity outage occurs in the big cities.
Yeah.
But you may still want to get you a generator. You want to get some type of lighting, LED, rechargeable lights. They're very inexpensive. You can get them for $20. You can get them for $40. You can go to Home Depot or Lowe's or simply buy them, online. And then don't forget, in the rural areas, most people use propane.
Mm-hmm.
Have additional 5 gallons of propane. I have 10 5-gallon bottles that I keep on the side. Anything like that extra. And if you can't afford it, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to tell you to put it on your credit card, okay? But if you can't afford, look, this is going to be 2021, okay? This isn't 2019. Do not hesitate. Dare to prepare, okay? If you need to put it on card, put it on the card. What's more important, the interest on your credit card or your wife, your husband, your children, your grandparents? What's more important? I mean, it's common sense.
Right.
Okay? So that's why, I look at level 1 is the cities because of the population, and you got threat of martial law. You could be robbed. You could be attacked. That's dangerous right there. That's why I've told people get out of heavy populated areas as soon as possible. I mentioned that on my channel over a year ago, and some people did. Okay. Now, level 2, the rural areas. Those are the people that don't want to be in those big cities. Okay. And they're different. Okay. They're not in that rat race. Excuse me, I don't want to be disrespectful. Okay. But they are in the rural areas because they prefer that. And most people in the rural areas, surprisingly, I did percentages on preparedness. The people in the rural areas, they are prepared, most of them, approximately 70 to 80%. And then it's backwards for the city. 70 to 80 in the cities are not prepared because, I have Sam's Club. I have Costco. I have different, large grocery, Super Walmart. I'm not worried about it. I've got city water. That's the way they look at it.
Yeah.
And then I've got electricity from, like gas and water. Well, that may be fine 10 or 15 years ago. It's not fine now.
Right.
And then the people in the category 3, that's totally off grid. And those people, they got it going on because they escape the large cities, the rural areas. They live in a remote area, some of them extremely remote, like myself, and they are prepared. They have their own solar panels. They have their own generators. They have their own propane. They have storage for food. I know people on my channel that are good friends of mine. They have a whole bedroom full of canned food that they did themselves.
Yeah.
Okay? They have non-perishable food. They have a water supply. They have their own well. Out here in New Mexico, a lot of people don't have their own well, Anthony. So what did they do? They have a 250, a 500, or a 1,000, some of them 1,500 gallon poly tanks, and they are full of water all the time. So it's basically where you're at, 1, 2, or 3, Anthony. And then, we just spoke about the weather conditions. Now, earthquakes?
Yes, we're going to be facing some earthquakes here, but, I wanted to backtrack just for a quick second, Brother Jim. One of the things that we also need to prepare for is we have a lot of people that have, like, medical issues. Getting medicine is going to be, or stocking up on medicine is going to be essential as well. One of the things that our doctor just told us this week when my wife went in is he was saying that it's very important to keep any medicines that you can get, keep them. He actually even went as far to tell us that, they always tell you to, once you get done, discard them. He was telling us, do not discard them, keep them. Because in the future, medicines are going to start getting a lot harder to get a hold of. And so this came straight from my doctor on that one. And so that affects, everybody, no matter where you're at, if you're off grid, you're in urban, or if you're in the city areas. And so I wanted to kind of throw that one out there as well. But, in the area of earthquakes, we're going to be facing these things. I think right now we have a CME coming into the Earth's atmosphere that's already started. I think your channel and my channel both reported on this yesterday. We're expecting a massive earthquake. Our intels have told us that California is going to be the strike zone for this particular one. I know from my end it's kind of an unconfirmed. I say it's unconfirmed because I don't really have proof to say yes 100% or not, but I just reported that. But typically whenever these things come in, it's somebody on the Pacific Rim is going to get hit. It's just how it goes. And so, when we are facing earthquakes, one of the things that you can kind of prepare for, especially if you're in those zones, you're not going to be able to stay in your structure. You're not going to be able to stay in your homes, and you're not going to be able to, if you stocked up food and water and all these things, you need to prepare to make those things mobile. Sometimes they call them crash kits, bug out bags, things like that, especially if you're in the city for sure. I would definitely... if you live in a city and you're in an earthquake-prone area, I would definitely make sure you have a couple of bug-out bags, at least one for each member of your family, with clothes in them, your documents. Make sure you have non-perishable foods that you're able to put in those bags, bottled waters, batteries, flashlights, chargers if you're able to get somewhere. If not, I know I personally own a hand-cranked radio that you can buy off of Amazon, by the way, and they're not that expensive. And so you can do those kinds of things. Make sure your vehicles are 100% full of gas. That's one of the things I do. I have my own generator here, and of course I have several cans of gas that I keep full, but when I know something is coming, I always make sure that all of our vehicles are 100% full of gas, because most gas tanks, are between 15, 20 gallons to a tank. And so you can, siphon gas out if you need it for things. But if you're looking at evacuations or needing to go somewhere, which most earthquake places you are going to have to leave, that would be my suggestion on that, is make sure you have a bug out bag. Even, when we go back to weather, hurricane season coming, that's the same thing with hurricanes. You need to have a bug out bag and probably enough stuff to last you 2 to 4 weeks on hurricanes. And I'm saying that out of experience, because I had to evacuate for hurricanes before, living on the Gulf Coast. As a kid, I went through Andrew, and as an adult, I went through Rita. And so I know a little bit about those. And so, Brother Jim, you got anything to add about that with the earthquakes?
Yes, I think you touched on something that is very important, and that's that's prescription drugs. You know, if you look at the majority of people that rely on prescription drugs, you know, those who are affected by health problems, it could be diabetes, so forth. You know, diabetes is very important. And I've talked to a doctor about getting prescription drugs for in case of emergency. And he said they are mandated by federal law. They are not going to give you extra medicine. They have to follow federal law on prescription drugs. They are very strict on that. I can't tell you other than, you know, how can you conserve medicine for a diabetic? No, you cannot.
Can't, yeah.
So I think that's very important, Anthony, and thank you for bringing that up, because I know a lot of people would be concerned about that. As far as earthquakes, you know, both channels, we give our subscribers a prediction, we give them what we think is coming, and they are listening, okay? Mm-hmm. Because earthquakes are very important. Okay, they're not worried about the vortex coming in, okay? It's mostly the earthquakes, that's like number one. So they pay attention. And unfortunately, you know, this video is for our subscribers and those who are not ready to prepare, or those who are not familiar with the timelines that we're currently living in, like the 26,000-year cycle that occurred beginning, you know, in the last week of December the 25th, 2012. So the Earth is going through a lot of pressure right now. It's expanding. It's causing the earthquakes. It's causing enormous cracks, sinkholes. You know, a record number of sinkholes is all over the world right now. How can you prepare for that? You can't. Okay, you're going to lose your house.
Right.
Okay, enormous cracks. Okay, you can see that. We're starting to see them in Arizona right now. Okay, and people are aware, and they move out of the way. But earthquakes, they come out of nowhere. Okay, and if you're not prepared, Anthony, like with a simple, you know, bug-out bag, the average bug-out bag, including the bag and the food and water supply, that's $30 to $40.
Right.
Now come on. And then if you have children, you should have your wife and your husband, both parents should have bug-out bags, and then the kids can have theirs as well.
Right.
Okay. And the kids, people will be surprised. The children be involved in this. It's like an adventure, you know, until it actually happens. So also people should remain calm. Don't get into mass hysteria. You should have an evacuation plan, okay? You and your significant others should be looking at an alternative route. If one area is blocked, for instance, you know, overpass, how are you going to leave? How are you going to get out? So people should work together as a family. You'd be surprised. An adolescent teenager that's 15 years old, that individual's pretty smart. Mm-hmm. He could catch something that you miss, like, hey, Dad, hey, Mom, do you really think that's a good idea? This route right here looks like it's open. So get your adolescent teenagers involved. You'd be surprised because they want to be involved. Don't treat them like little kids anymore, okay? Get your family involved.
Yeah.
And if you have your grandparents or you're taking care of one of your parents, let them know what's fixing to happen. You know, Brother Ron, he hit on something, you know, last week. You know, some guy talked about an earthquake hitting Saturday, you know, a big magnitude. He has no evidence. He has no confirmation. And he said, this information will shock the people that's in a retirement home or elderly people. Okay. That's why I'm very cautious, and so are you. We're not going to just scare people, okay? We're not about that. But if they are taking care of their parents or grandparents, just talk to them gently. Hey, these things may be coming. we should look at an evacuation route, and we have food, and we have extra fuel for the car, and if something happens, we're going to leave our home. And then a lot of people don't know that, when an earthquake first hits, they don't know what it is on the magnitude. Okay, they don't know. They sometimes think, oh, it's nothing but a 3. No, it's not. It's a 4.5, and it's fixing to increase to a 5 or 6. As soon as that happens, get out of your building immediately. Get your children, get who's ever living with you out of your home structure immediately. Okay, that's the number one. And then other people will be outside, like if you're in a big city. They will come out too. And that's the best way. And then whatever's in the home, just leave it. Okay, it's not important. What's important is your lives,
right,
of you and your children and your parents, if you are taking care of your parents. And the main thing is psychologically. I've studied psychology. You cannot let fear come in to your reality. You will lose control of your reality at that time, and that's when you need to have it together. That's when you need to have it together, Anthony.
Yeah.
It's just common sense. But if you put yourself in that position, and people that are not like us or people that is not like the channel, I got a message today. I told my family in California we got to be on alert, and they laughed. They laughed at me. So we can only do so much, Anthony. Since you're so much into the weather, I think it would be good to touch on, tornadoes come out of nowhere, Anthony.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on that?
Well, they do pretty well come out of nowhere. The example that really comes to my mind about a tornado that was not forecasted. Do you remember the Joplin tornado we had a couple of years ago?
Yeah. Oh, God, that was devastating.
That is, I think that scenario is what we're going to be looking at This spring with a lot of the turbulence. Go ahead.
Excuse me, Anthony. I've seen so many videos. I've read so many articles. That particular tornado, Anthony, wiped out the whole small communities, wiped them completely off. And I go back and I look how people were shocked and how many people died. And I just want to stop you because that hit me right there. Because I've seen it firsthand through videos now and over on news media. Yeah. But that was a great example.
We drove through there.
Oh God!
This was months later, and it still looked like the tornado had just hit.
Yeah,
when we drove through there, and
devastating.
So I think when we look in the area of preparedness, like we've stated, those things are gonna, you're not always gonna have a warning with a tornado. It'll just drop, and with the turbulence that we're expecting. This spring, between our magnetic field plays a lot into weather, our jet streams, and with the unorganized jet streams that we have right now with all the breakage, that taking place. And I don't know, Brother Jim, if you've seen this, but we have a jet stream that's currently connecting our northern polar to the southern polar. Have you seen that? It cuts right through South America. Mm-hmm. And so, we have something there that is not normal, and that's going to play into our weather this spring and summer. They say we're going to be in transition from a La Nina to an El Nino. I think they're going to be using that a lot as an excuse for the anomalies coming up this spring. And so my advice to you is if you have if thunderstorms are forecasted for your area this spring, you need to be prepared. Because right now we're already beginning to see the early signs of a very nasty severe weather season coming. We're already starting to see high temperature velocities right now between areas. and it's already hitting the northern states, and we're not even out of February yet. And so, we got 2 more days, and we'll be in March. But that would be my advice to my subscribers, your subscribers, Brother Jim, is this spring and summer, if thunderstorms are forecast in your area, you just need to be prepared. Because I think we're going to get a lot of storms that are going to catch us by surprise this year. I've heard rumors that they're going to assess the Fujita scale. This is where we get the F1s, F2s, tornado ratings. I'm hearing rumors they're going to redo that and add in like an F6, F7 tornadoes. These are going to be the ones I think that are wider than 2 miles in diameter. And so I think we could be seeing some of those this spring. The dynamics in the atmosphere are there for these kind of storms. Oh. And so that would be my advice, Brother Jim, on this. And we'll do the best we can on here because you'll know when these storm systems come in off the West Coast or if they drop in out of Canada or come out of the Rockies. One of the big signatures that we'll see is extreme temperature differences, and you'll already know. If one area it's 18 degrees and the other area it's 85, you already know that in that battleground there's going to be tornadic weather. We'll see it also in extremities between dry and humid air as well, which in Texas, we always, in April and May, you get a dry line that sets up that gets a lot of tornadoes going through Texas and Oklahoma. Expect that dry line to be more intense and to extend a lot further than just Texas and Oklahoma. So that's about all I got right now on the tornadoes thing there for you, Jim.
Well, thank you, Anthony. You covered it very well. I heard the same thing, that they are going to have to redo the scale for the tornadoes. And you remember 2 years ago we had a snowstorm came in basically from the south here where I live in New Mexico, and I was driving it and I could not see 6 feet in front of my vehicle. That storm went into Colorado. A Canadian vortex came through and met right there in Denver. And that storm went all the way across Nebraska and Kansas, and it was reported 75 tornadoes. The flooding lasted for days, all the way from Oklahoma into Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and it devastated the farming community.
Yes, I remember that.
And they never recovered from it. 25% of the farmers never did recover. So some of the tornadoes went as far east into Illinois and Ohio. And all of this was in 24 to 36-hour period. But what we should also remember is the heat waves that we received about 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that devastated these cities because, for example, in Memphis, Tennessee, where my mother lives, it was 103 degrees with 100% humidity. People on low income did not have air conditioning. The city tried to get them fans to put in their windows, and over 100 people died in a week from the heat, Anthony.
Yeah.
And with the jet stream being abnormal, someone said, I'm not really concerned about that. Well, okay, run your air conditioning. Okay? You got air conditioning. Run it. Okay? Your bill may go from $400 to $600. Whatever you need to do, run it. But what about the elderly people? What about the people that have low income? With the economy crashing right now, you'd be surprised how people don't have central air. Okay? And if people should be aware of their parents or grandparents in these conditions dealing with the heat, Anthony, a lot of those people was elderly people that died. They perished, and it was so sad during these times. And I believe we are going to see it this year, record-breaking numbers dealing with the heat and 100% humidity that's coming.
Yeah.
So I think, if we look at every aspect like we're doing right now, I think this is going to be a wonderful video to help people understand, okay? Do not take it for granted. I am concerned right now over the hurricane seasons and the tornadoes, and that's why I stated on Earth Changers channel, I'm going to be more specific now because the storms are not what they was 10 years ago, Anthony.
No, they're not.
You know that. And so are we going to rely on federal agencies to give us a warning? Yeah, somewhat. They have been pretty good on that. And people want to comment about geoengineering. Yes, we know that. Look at what happened to hurricane that hit New Orleans, Katrina. They held that. That was abnormal. That hurricane, the eye of that hurricane stopped in the Gulf of Mexico for 3 to 4 days. That was very abnormal, and it built up pressure. And look what happened. So that could be done by China. That could be done by Russia. That could be done by any type of government. They have the technology for that. So we should keep an eye on that. But getting back to what I'm saying, the federal government has been very good at warning people about different events that can be extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
They're extremely dangerous. And the information I received is 2 categories that are coming up. It's hurricanes, tornadoes.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm just putting it in myself, 100% humidity. What about those people that may be in Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi? They don't get the wind, Anthony. If you open up your windows, you can get some wind, but they don't get it. They don't get it. And there's no wind, and, oh, gosh, it's just horrible. So we should consider 100% humidity, over 100 degrees. Even 90 degrees with 100% humidity is horrible.
Yeah.
So we should look at every little bitty aspect that can be large events such as that.
Yeah. When we talk about heat, I wanted to say something because I grew up on the Gulf Coast of Texas, so, I was no stranger to high humidity and heat. One of the things that I did to keep cool, because I did a lot of outdoor work and things, one, wearing clothing that is light colored helps. Do not wear dark color clothing because that will draw more sunlight, more heat to you. Wear light color clothing. Wear 100% cotton. I know it sounds terrible, but wearing 100% cotton will absorb actually your sweat and it acts as an air conditioner for you. Secondly, I always had, if you have the ability to have a jug or something that you're able, or a cup that you're able to freeze water and carry that around with you, as it melts, you can drink it. That helps keep your body temperature down. I remember a couple, in the early 2000s in Dallas, we had, I think, like 120-something days plus of temperatures over 105 and above. I was doing that daily, and I got through the heat pretty decently doing that. And there's doing little tidbits like that do help maintain a low body temperature in the midst of great heat like that. And so if you're able to keep your body temperature down, you can withstand a lot of heat and humidity. But a lot of people, they want to, they think that the less clothes you wear will keep you cool. It actually doesn't. Dehydration is always a big one too. The more you keep your body hydrated in high heat situations like that, if you don't have air conditioning, the more that it will actually help your body deal with that heat and regulate its, your body's system and things like that. But I think you're right, Brother Jim. We're going to be dealing with heat this summer, especially here in the northern states where I'm at. They're not too used to that in this area. And, I don't know so much where I'm at because, The lakes did freeze this winter because of that vortex we have. So it may be a little bit later getting the high heat in this area because those lakes around us act like an air conditioner in the wintertime. But I know last year the lakes didn't freeze, and we actually had about 3 weeks of 90-degree weather here because of that. But now, I think of places like Chicago and like Fargo and places like that where they're not used to that high heat. People there may have a hard time with that. There's a lot of things we could touch on, Brother Jim. We really haven't scratched the surface yet of everything. We've got floods we could talk about. We've got social unrest we could talk about. We've got the rocks coming in that we could talk about. These storms too. When we look in the area of weather, we have with our atmosphere changing and the particles coming in because of the binary system, and plus we're in a solar minimum right now, part of those cycles that you were talking about. All those things are kind of compressing our atmosphere. That's bringing down the jet stream closer to the ground level, which is going to give us a lot of wind. You're going to have windy days with blue skies. I mean, we're going to be dealing with wind this spring too. Wait till March and April roll around. We're going to have a lot more wind than what we're used to. And, that also, when the atmosphere is compressed down, that brings that colder air. Because if you go, a couple thousand feet in the atmosphere, the temperature drops below zero. That's going to be coming closer to the surface too. And so that we're going to be seeing thunderstorms that are going to be, like super chilled at the 40, 50,000 foot level when these clouds build. And so I say that because hailstorms are going to be something we're going to be contending with this spring and summer as well, outside of tornadoes. And so there's a lot of different areas that we could be looking at. And so, Brother Jim, I think we're going to have to do a part 2 on this. What do you think?
Yes, I believe that's very important and great idea, Anthony. I mentioned we have the Trojans that are coming. Other channels are talking about it now. And I'm going to be working on a video next week on Deep Truth, Deep Impact, Part 1, on how to be in safe locations. It's mostly dealing with water, how to evacuate areas around the oceans or the Gulf, and I will be looking at that. But the rocks are coming, ladies and gentlemen. And, Anthony, we know that. Unfortunately, this is true. We have a 30% increase this year dealing with the Apollos. They're coming in 2 months ahead of schedule now, I have noticed. And then the planetary system last year, in March the 27th, Africa got hit with the asteroid impact. It was not on mainstream media news. No one knew about it. So are they coming, and where are they going to hit? That's what people ask me. I don't care what type of source you have, okay? We don't know. And the source that told me, I said, any possible impact, longitude and latitude information? No. Okay, so they don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I live here in New Mexico. One could hit right here, Anthony. I mean, where are you going to go? All we can do is get away from the water. So that would be something that we should cover. Yeah. I think we cover just about everything. We do, the magnetic reversal process is taking place, and the videos I put out last week shows the new location. So everything is being affected. This planetary system's draining our sun. We're in the solar minimum. It's affecting the weather. We're getting more CMEs. The jet streams are totally out of whack, like you mentioned. I have never seen it before. No one seen it before like this. It's affecting the weather. They're changing the categories of the numbers dealing with the tornadoes. I don't know what they're going to do with the hurricanes. I know we're going to see record numbers this year. But I believe in this part, the first video now, Anthony, we covered quite a bit.
Yeah, we did.
Quite a bit.
We did.
And I think it would be great to hear posts and comments from the subscribers, maybe we missed something.
Yeah.
Maybe they have something that they could put in. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your input. You know, me and Anthony and other channels like Ron, we're trying our best, but we really get a lot of insight from you guys.
Yeah.
Right? We do. We totally do. And that's what, you know, the only thing I could see for part 2, you know, the rocks are coming, the magnetic reversals increasing. You know, we did touch on everything else. I don't know, Anthony. Let's think about it, marinate on it, and think what we should do for part 2. I think part 2 would be important because I think within the next few days we would come up with something else that we should be ready to prepare. You know, it may be related to the government. You know, the pandemic is still in force. You know, how to prepare for that.
We also
we're going to go to a different level this year.
Yeah, we also we're on the brink of war as well.
Yeah,
and that's something we may need to look at going forward.
Got it.
So we're going to have to, you know, that's going to affect everything and everyone with what's coming up because you know we made that shot to I think our military we bombed some Iranian facilities in Syria, and we know the Iranians aren't just going to sit there and let us do that. So retaliation is coming, and so you know we're going to be facing that. And so, Brother Jim, I think we'll focus on a part 2. We may sit back and marinate a little while. I think it may be best to do that because I think some things are going to unfold as well that we'll need to come back on and talk about. And so maybe we can focus on doing something maybe in April. Might be a good time. We'll be getting into the thick of severe weather season too around that time, and or something like that. We'll get together behind the scenes and we'll figure something out. But I think going forward, we're probably going to be dealing with the continuation of the pandemic, but the potential of maybe a new virus as well, because some of the sources I'm hearing saying that we may get a sense of normality for a couple of months, then the restrictions are coming back even stronger, and so I'm hearing that, and I'm also you know with the potential of war breaking out, we have that. Also, you know, with things going on in our government, we've got even decisions being made today that could affect how we interact even socially, especially in the area of genders that are taking place too. And so we have a lot of areas that we could discuss, but I think you're right. You know, especially when it comes to the area of weather, I think we've done a pretty good job on here, you know, giving you guys an idea of what you should do to prepare and to take care of your family. And of course, if anybody has questions, you can also contact myself or Brother Jim over at Earth Changes as well, and we will do our best to address those questions as well. Yeah, what are your last thoughts here before we get off here, Brother Jim?
Everything that we just talked about, we can give you a notice. This is addressed to the subscribers, Anthony. Everything that we just gave you, we can give you a week's notice.
Yeah.
Okay? We can give you 2 days' notice. Okay? Dealing with war, people, I get emails and questions, you know, Jim, what is your number one concern right now? Is it about the earthquakes? I'll say no, it's not. Is it about the magnetic reversal? No, it is not. It is about potential war. It can happen overnight while we are sleeping.
Yeah.
That is my number one concern right now, Anthony. Number one. And that's it. I think we covered everything. And I would really like to hear the insights from the subscribers, and because they do have a very good input on current events. I'm so proud of the subscribers on both channels because they are aware of these events and they dare to prepare. They are prepared. My people are prepared. Your people are prepared. But, after everything that we talked about, the most important preparedness is spiritually.
Yes.
Spiritually. And I'm a Christian.
Yes.
And I believe in Jesus Christ. And I believe if you're going to rely on yourself to get through these events, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
You're going to fail. You're going to fail. If you put it in the hands, people ask me all the time, what's going on? I said, look, all of this is in the hands of God. And how do you prepare? I prepare with Jesus Christ. That's what I do. And that is the ultimate preparedness, ladies and gentlemen.
Because you can prepare, you can prepare to survive life on earth, but if you're not spiritually prepared, your eternity is at risk. And at the end of the day, it's really about eternity than it is about life here on earth, because, it's a vapor in the wind, life comes and goes, but our eternity is what's most important. And I'd encourage you guys, even before physically preparing for all these things, man, make sure spiritually that your life is in order. Make sure your home is in order spiritually. Make sure that, your house is saved, that you guys believe in Jesus Christ, that he's the Lord and Savior of your home. And, no matter what happens, that you're prepared and that you are able to make it to the other side, cross those pearly gates, and be in the presence of our Lord Jesus Christ. That is the most important thing that we can do in the area of preparedness. And Brother Jim, you're absolutely right about that. That is the number one thing that we need to really be focused on in this. And that also, when you have that relationship with Jesus Christ, we have this thing that the Holy Spirit gives us, and it's called discernment. And when we use discernment, Jesus will guide us through these things. He might wake you up in the middle of the night and say, hey, you need to leave. You may not know why you need to leave, but you should leave. Then you find out a few days later, well, a rock hit there. You listened. You were prepared.
Right.
There's several examples of things like that in the Bible. When I remember when Jesus was born and Joseph was awakened in the middle of the night to flee Egypt. That was because they were coming to kill the babies. He didn't know that at the time, but he left. And so God does those things for his children to prepare us. And if we just listen to the voice of the Lord, listen to the Holy Spirit, God will take care of us. And if that time comes where, it's time for us to go from one life to the other, my hope is that all of you that are listening, all of our subscribers on both of our channels, would be saved, and that we all get to hang out and have a massive party in heaven. Because the likelihood that I'm going to get to meet anybody here is not very high, but in heaven we get to hang out for eternity, and that's going to be a whole lot of fun. So, but Brother Jim, I thank you so much for coming on and having this discussion. I think that this was a very good video. I know the subscribers on this channel, thank you very much. And look forward to working with you again in the future on some things. And guys, here on Daily Excellence, if you have not subscribed to Earth Changes channel, I highly advise that you guys go check out his channel, and he has a lot of great information on there about earthquakes, about the magnetic reversals. He's done some reports also about the climate. Also, check out his backup channel at Deep Truth, Deep Impact. He's got videos on there about the rocks and the Trojans and things like that are coming. And so also he's on Brighteon as well. He uses Brighteon to post some of the more sensitive material that would not be acceptable here on the YT. He puts that out there on Brighteon as well. And so some different places that you can catch Brother Jim at. But Brother Jim, thanks for coming on tonight. And those of you on the channel here, before you exit out the chat room, please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, give us a like, check us out in all the links below. If you'd like to support this channel, you can do so through our PayPal or Patreon. So with that being said, everyone, have a good night, God bless, and we will see you on the next video. Bye, everyone.